All right, good morning. I'm Executive Assistant Chief Larry Satterwhite over Field Operations. With me is Commander Chris Hassig over our Homicide Division and Sergeant Jerome Lancaster over in our West Side Division. We're out here in the 700 block of Country Place on an officer-involved shooting. The good news is that our officers are okay. They were not injured, and it doesn't appear anybody else was injured. Our suspect was hit multiple times and is injured, but it does not appear to be life-threatening injuries, and we're thankful for that. So early this morning, a neighbor was out walking his dog and walked by his neighbor in the neighborhood that's right across from him and saw him sitting just outside his garage. As the neighbor was walking back by with his dog, as he passed him up, he heard two shots. He turned around and saw the neighbor, who is the suspect, manipulating a firearm, racking it. The neighbor that immediately went back inside the house and called for the police. He reported a suspicious person with a weapon. Our officers received the call to this location at 7:35 a.m. this morning and arrived at 7:47 a.m. They rolled right up and located the suspect, the neighbor, and immediately got out and began trying to make voice contact to figure out what was going on. Almost immediately they noticed that the neighbor, the suspect, was armed, had a gun in his hand, and started giving voice commands to him to drop the firearm. The suspect did not comply. He was in his garage, moved further back in his garage, did not comply, continued to call out at the officers, and then at some point the neighbor, the suspect, made a move with his firearm, threatening the officers, and gunfire was exchanged. Both of our officers, it appears to have fired. We're still trying to verify that, at least one for sure. Multiple rounds. We're going to verify if the other one did fire, and it appears the suspect fired 2 to 3 times towards the officers. And again, I'm thankful that the officers were not struck. The suspect, having been struck, though not life-threatening, made his way back into the apartment and locked the door. Officers could go no further. Units arrived and set up a perimeter around the location, and because the suspect would not come out, and we called into the residence. Officers made contact with the suspect's mother, who was inside the residence, and she confirmed that he had been struck, but he was still not going to comply, not going to surrender. At some point, the mother did bring the firearm that the suspect reportedly had out and set it outside, and immediately went right back into the house before officers could keep her from going back in. Officers continued to make calls into the house and get the mother back on the phone. She came out another time, and when she did, officers secured her so she could not go back in for her safety so that we could better get the scene under control. At that point, officers moved up around the perimeter, right up closer to the objective, undercover, and continued voice commands. The suspect eventually did surrender. He came out to the door. Officers took him into custody and immediately rendered aid. And then an ambulance moved up and then transported him to the medical center. And again, I do not know the placement of his injuries. I do know that they have been told that they are lower extremity and not life-threatening at this time. Our officers are 2 7-year officers, and they are okay, and we're going to continue to take care of them. They will be on administrative leave per our department policy. The suspect is a 33-year-old Hispanic male, and again, he is being cared for at the hospital. He will very likely be charged with aggravated assault on a peace officer. Homicide SIU, Special Investigations Unit, will be out here conducting the investigation. A separate investigation will be conducted by our District Attorney's Office, and our Houston Forensic Science Center is out here to process the scene. The body-worn camera will be released within 30 days as per policy. Questions?
I think you covered it all, right?
Will there be any charges with the mother?
No, we haven't. We don't anticipate any charges on the mother at this time. It appears, she's looking out for her son, but she did comply with us.
Were you able to ascertain from people who are out here, like, was the suspect's mental status, or?
Yes. So the neighbors have stated, at least one to me, that his behavior has become more erratic over recent times, over the last several months. There may be some substance abuse involved. We don't know that for sure. But there may be some mental history. We're still trying to confirm that also. But apparently his actions have been alarming the neighbors quite a bit.